we know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted.
Hi, I'm Anna, the co-founder of the Sisters Enchanted.
Today, we are talking about creating a home that feels like a sacred space.
We are?
We are.
I don't think I knew this.
I literally told you and made bullet points whilst looking at you just a minute ago.
I was not paying attention.
Rude of you.
We were talking about astrology.
Yeah, right before we started this, we pulled up these like extra bits and bobbles about our birth charts.
Yes.
And Anna learned that she wants to eat lots of food and do no exercise, but be healthy and do minimal work and make money based on her placements of things in her chart. So it was when you were discovering that I was giving you the
yeah, but notes. You were like, Anna, that makes sense to me. So maybe you were doing the bullet points in your head while you were
No, I wrote them. They're on an envelope.
Oh,
somewhere.
So how is it?
Right there by your hand. They're on an envelope.
You
in brown.
Never showed me this envelope.
In brown writing.
What's the blue writing?
I think on this side is the note.
That's not other. The brown on that side.
No, that's different brown writing.
I was never delivered these notes. I was never
They're
told
right next to you.
This envelope.
Perhaps you should have.
I just debunked your.
Now you have them. We're going to talk about dedicated spaces, dust, and boundaries. The end of podcast.
I'm glad that you told me about the envelope of notes.
It's now the second time I've told you about it because I told you the first time when I wrote it also.
Nope. Lies.
Speaking of astrology and creating a house that's a sacred space, one of the things we were looking at, well, we were looking at so many things, but we were just discovering like pieces of ourselves and kind of why we are the way we are. And an interesting thing in my life is that
love to explain why I am the way that I am on my astrology chart.
Yeah, I know. Anna was telling me mine, and I was like, can we just move past this?
No.
I don't want to talk about this. Anyway, Taurus is this really like comfy, cozy sign, right? Like loves its plush things. It's plush things. It's plushy plushies. Likes its plushy plushies.
Plush.
Cozy.
Fuzzy fuzzies.
Yeah. And so in my home, my son, he's a Taurus sun. My daughter's a Taurus moon. My husband has Taurus. His Chiron's in Taurus in his fourth house, which is like family stuff. And then I have a Taurus North node. So I think it's really interesting for me to think about home as a sacred space because it wasn't until recently that my home started to feel like a home and not like
a collection
of smattering of things that have just landed where they landed. And people happen to live amongst the things.
Indeed.
And like just recently as it like, we've set it up. So it feels cozy and there's plants and decorations and a rug.
Speaking of astrology and Taurus and all those things you said about my Taurus, I will say, though, that as far as my own health goes, I definitely, especially like mentally, I feel better when my house is clean.
I know you do.
And cozy.
Anna like cannot proceed past go to collect her $200 if her house is not clean.
This is true. It's like they say, if you have a cluttered house, you have a cluttered mind.
Yeah.
And my mind can't function if I'm in an area where there is any form of chaos.
Huh. Because I'm the epitome of chaos.
I know. The epitome.
The epitome.
The epitome. Sarah and I also took tests recently about our personalities, this certain kind of test.
And the DISC profile,
yes.
I think it's called, or something like that.
Yes. And everything that Sarah does in like a workspace makes me feel chaotic and
Stressed out was the word that they use in the assessment. The things that might make you feel stressed out at work.
Sarah does. And the things that I do stress out Sarah.
Well, because I like to move. I'm like, decision
Why
made,
are you
move.
being combative?
Because that's
I
how.
didn't combat you.
Because
Your
it stresses
results.
me out when you're like, I need more information.
Mm-hmm.
I need a plan.
No. And you know what? When I do my
I'm like-
plans, my work is precise. Sarah's like, do it. It's okay if you make mistakes. We'll just fix them later. And I'm like, I will not have mistakes.
And I'm like, action, action, go, go, go.
I refuse mistakes. Refuse.
Well, what does this have to be like? What does this have to do?
I think that this is a great segue into dust.
Dust in a house that feels like a sacred space.
Yes.
No, because I think that one, you have to realize what that feels like to you. Because my family is on the move a lot, and so you have to I take that into consideration.
So, like, yours, like, home is where the heart is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did I just make that sound really poetic for you? You were like, yeah, that's right. That's me.
Accurate.
That's me. Me and my home.
Yeah. No, we like to go, but to make it feel like a sacred space, though, we do have to have certain things. Like we bring, like
cicada shells.
Oh my gosh, yes, those. Yeah, we collect those everywhere we go. Obviously,
And there you go into like Sarah's camper or her like car. If you ever go into Sarah's car,
no, don't do that.
you can't really put anything on the center console because it's like cicada shells and roughage of sorts.
Pine needles,
Some pine needles and some roadside mugwort.
Bark.
Sometimes some rocks and some like
Okay.
actual tree limbs.
I
Like
can't
not just sticks, but
promise
like limbs.
that my car isn't like a gnome portal, and you go in one way and you come out part gnome or like elvish. Just saying.
It's true.
We, to make our spaces feel like they work for us, we bring like this sounds so silly, like buckets of stuff. So I'll have like a container that's like my work things. We'll have a container that's our homeschool things, like our special stuff. And we just take those with us. So if we're in our camper, they go. So we can like recreate our home wherever we are. Anna's house, a home that feels like sacred space. Anna has
A
Like-
home is where the plants live.
Yeah, Anna has like areas, delineated areas for things.
Mm.
She has a tray for your shoes, which I learned when I didn't use it.
Yeah, because
Last time I
who
was
just
over.
willy-nilly walks into a house over a snow after a snowstorm and like kicks their shoes on wood floor
I
and
didn't.
salt and snow everywhere
kick
when
them.
there's obviously a mat to wipe your feet on and then a tray to put your wet
No,
shoes on.
I
You just came in and you were like, oops, my shoes fell over the wood floor and puddles.
I just took them off and left them there. I didn't toss them. I just took them off. And
I
that's why
believe
took them
one was
off.
like sideways and one was like right side up.
I
So
don't
they
know.
had a little bit of a tossing to them.
But I caught a ration of poo for that.
Yes. We've talked about this. We've talked about this in Virgos, typically Virgo moons. I am not a Virgo moon. I have a stellium in Virgo, however. That a lot of people with like a Virgo moon, they don't see how like that's the thing that makes them angsty, that Virgo-ness. They're like, oh no, I thought it was, that I was an Aries rising or, that I was a Leo sun. I'm like, no. Your Virgo made everything perfect
Until it
for
wasn't.
everybody. You made it so that there was a place to hang your keys and to put the mail. And you made 2 bins, one that has recycling printed on a label, like you used a label maker and said like recycling and trash. You did everything to make life easy for your family to do the things. And then your family's like, I don't know how to read, when they do know how to read. And they just kick their wet shoes all over your life that you made easy for them.
I don't live with you.
There was a a space for wet shoes clearly allocated next to the door. You were just like, I don't need to stomp my feet on the mat. I don't need to put them in this wet shoe vessel. Just dump them. This is like the time that Sarah came over with her kids. And they came from like the beach. So when I came downstairs, there was somehow like a layer of sand over my whole first floor. I'm not sure how, but I
not sure
definitely had like
either.
a mini beach in my house. And not only that, but Sarah brought pre-packed sandwiches to my house. And for whatever reason, her and her kids took out all of the lunch meat
Why are you telling this story?
and left the lunch meat all over my kitchen table and like the clamshells from their sandwiches on my table, but the lunch meat was everywhere. And Sarah took to calling them cold meats, and she was like, I don't understand what your problem is with like cold meats. And now there's like this whole thing that happens with Sarah and I about when she's not
cold
behaving, that we talk about that time with the cold meats. So like she came into my house and dumped sand everywhere and left cold meats on my clean kitchen table.
I've never
Just like
even
on the table.
heard that phrase before in my life. But
Like,
like
not even on a plate.
someone had
Just
said
on the
it
table,
just
cold
like
meats.
within a day of that. And then I was like, stop looking at my cold meats.
Yeah. So now, like, regularly, it's like a joke that we're like, Sarah, it's like that time. And she's like, I don't want to talk about my cold meats.
We don't talk about cold meats.
No. So, anyways.
Okay. Anna needs, to make a house that
Are
feels
you
like
gonna say I
sacred
need help?
space.
I don't leave cold meats on people's tables.
Your son spit up a cracker on my trampoline, and the cracker's still embedded in the trampoline.
Whose fault is that for not cleaning up their trampoline?
Your husband's for leaving it there when he saw it happen. Anyway, cold meats.
I like how you still
Cold
have a
meats.
trampoline sitting in the middle of your kitchen.
Who doesn't have a trampoline in the middle of their kitchen?
Me!
Guys, this is not about my faults. This is not about trampolines or cold meats or sand that appears out of nowhere or my inability to see a very clearly placed shoe tray. This is about houses that feel like sacred spaces and how perhaps you need to make your house more guest friendly.
My house is guest friendly. There's assigned places for shoes. You don't
Okay.
even have to guess where your shoes go. They go on the shoe tray. Anyways, new t-shirt dropping, cold meats and gnome portals.
All right.
Okay.
Focus, children, particularly us when I say children.
No, my house is very much. I actually took note recently. I have over 20 varieties of plants in my house. Varieties, not 20 plants, 20 different kinds of plants. And then I have sometimes a smorgasbord of a specific plant.
That.
But I have them set up in this way that like makes sure I have like little like nooks of space.
Yes.
And like there's like a place for reading and like tea if you wanted to. There's a place for like family eating.
And cold meats.
And
I did it
cold
again.
meats. If you so desire
So-
to leave cold meats astray,
When we think about
room temperature,
anything happens when you're alone with
discarded.
multiple children. I was doing you a solid by babysitting while you worked. And now you got to bring my cold meats up.
Cold meats and sandy wood floors.
When you're thinking of your house that's a sacred space, I think that actually this is a good point. It's a silly story, but it's a good point. What happens when you live with people who don't value sacred space in the way that you do? Like me with my chaos in your house. So if you lived with people like that, I think that boundaries was on my bulleted list
It
of
is.
notes that you didn't read beforehand for us to talk
You
about.
didn't deliver them beforehand.
About
Okay, I have a question.
setting boundaries around areas.
I pose a question.
Okay.
If I went to your house
Yeah.
and I put a cold meat on your counter, would you think that I was helping your sacred space, which is your house? Would I be like paying homage to your house if I left cold meats on the counter?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't think much of it. I would
you
just
leave it there?
well, either Kevin would throw it away or I would eventually.
I'm gonna start leaving cold meats at your house. I'm gonna buy a package, and then every time I come over, I'm just gonna put like a piece of bologna on the wall.
Oh, I hate bologna. Don't bring bologna in my house. I'll find that offensive.
I think when Sarah did it was maybe roast beef.
Yeah. If it's like ham or something. But bologna, I'm going to
No, I'm gonna bring a bologna because I feel
take
like
issue
it
with.
can stay in a package for a long time, and then I can travel to your house and I do
At least
just
leave a
like
cold meat patty.
tons of bologna,
It's disgusting. I hate bologna.
a bologna.
Now you've just gone into different territory that's unacceptable.
So now I have crossed your boundaries.
yes, bologna is not within the acceptable cold meats to leave on my counter. That would make my house not feel sacred. Something else would be a different story.
Understood.
I think that setting boundaries for yourself in what might be your neck of the woods in your house. But if you have a small house, like I have a small house. So for me, that looks like things that I don't want anybody touching need to like really be up high or in a cabinet where nobody can get to them and have specific rules. Like another thing we do, yes, well, guidelines. I don't prefer rules.
Which is interesting
For
because
guidelines.
I am not in that frame of mind. I get a lot of slack from people like Sarah who come over to watch children and like lets the children do whatever they want. But I like leave plants and things and crystals all around. And she's like, this is not kid friendly. Why don't you hit it away? And I'm like, because this is my space. And like the child will learn not to touch that space. I don't want to relocate all of my things to accommodate others. I want others to come in and respect my things and learn how to respect them and live amongst my things. My plants were there. A lot of my plants were there before the children, even Jacob.
Well, see, you have good boundaries.
Like some of my plants have lived longer than 10 years with me, and therefore they deserve the space.
You know what I can't stand about the internet? There are all these strangers out there trying to tell you what to do and how to live your life. Well, you won't find any of that here at the Sisters Enchanted. We have led our Expedition to Soul free program for years and years now to tens of thousands of people around the world. And what makes it different from everything else out there is that it will help you to map your own journey forward, to look at your intentions, to look at what magic means to you, what witchery, what all the woo-woo spiritual goodness available to you, what it means to you, to expand your intuition and so much more. And it's all centered on your unique self, your unique way of being. We host this free class twice per year. So I don't want you to miss out when it's coming up next. Go to expeditiontosoul.com to find out the next dates. Get your name on the list so you get those emails, you get all of the pre-class goodies, because even though it's a free class, we load you up with tons of pre-materials to get you already working on everything before we even kick off. So head to expeditiontosoul.com today to find out that next date. Get yourself registered. You won't want to miss out. And we can't wait to join you on an expedition to soul. So when we talk about making a house that feels like a sacred space, one, we got to like dissect the things we said that were useful, because most of this involved cold meats and shoe trays and was not useful, but it was funny, I guess. Hardy har har.
To know more about us, which clearly everybody wanted to know more about
Obviously, about my cold meats.
Such a good story.
Anyway, when you are creating a house that feels like sacred space, what is sacred space? It's a place that feels worth something to you. Like you are connected to it. You want to be there. In my life, where we bop around from place to place, we do that by we literally have like these buckets that travel with us with handles, and they're like the things
like
for,
totes.
the things for the different stations. So we have we recreate my workstation. We recreate the homeschool station. We bring very specific things. So we're recreating our home. So no matter where we are, it feels like ours, and we feel restful there. We feel connected there, tended to. In Anna's house, Anna has very good boundaries where she leaves out the things and she just reinforces the boundary of what you can and cannot do with them. In my house, where chaos energy reigns, we take the things that we don't want other people to have access to and put those, which is not much. I really can't even think of anything, but we do put those. I put stuff in the attic that I don't want the kids to touch, and then we get that down. That nothing.
I have so much to say to this. We're going to wait till after the
chaos
podcast.
Does reign in my house, and we just have a lot fewer boundaries in our house, but it feels like our space because it's our stuff.
Right.
But that's what makes it your sacred space. In my house, it's a lot different of an energy than Anna's house, but my family has a lot different. Our energy is very different than Anna's. Well, Riker kind of fits with my crowd.
I know Riker was born into the Brock household.
He fits in with us just fine. But the rest of you. But that's
sensible us.
But that's what's important to do though in making your house your sacred space, because you could look at somebody else's house and be envious of what they have. And your house is super cute. I love it. It's delightful to be in. But like it wouldn't work for my family just the way you have things set up, because everything would be destroyed and it'd be mass chaos. But in my house, you know, with just a trampoline in the kitchen, like that stresses you out, having a trampoline in the kitchen. Don't ask questions about the trampoline.
No, this was not a question, but I think that that's just, it's really funny what it's funny really about what perception is on like your space and what is important to you. So Sarah's house is very, air quotes, kid friendly, which is funny because it's kid friendly for like her age of kids, but any kids younger, it's kind of unsafe. You know, so like for me, I keep things like crayons and things typically away. But you have all your crayons and stuff out and accessible for your kids to pull and play with all the time.
Yeah.
But then like,
okay, that's always been that way. That remember that time Adam ate the mascara when he was like 10 months old?
okay, but I was going to talk about Riker eating the crayon at your house the
yeah.
other day, and you were
Well,
like, Riker ate my expensive crayon.
Yeah, they're nice crayons.
I know.
He chopped one.
Yeah, because it was out,
It was really rude.
like near the.
No, I was doing art with him.
You were arting.
Yeah,
So you were asking for it.
well,
That is funny that you brought up the
kind of.
mascara story.
I know. Okay, I walked right into that one. So the other thing you do, so making it yours. Like, don't worry about what other people saying do. It's about you.
Yes.
That's all it's about. And then when you have a small space or people who are just in your space, maybe that's why we love the Quest pack, where you
Right.
pack the things that you want for your special time or that make you feel comfortable and grounded. You can just take it room to room, which is
Right.
actually what we do a lot of in my house.
Oh no, I
Because
do
like
the same thing.
we're like, you know, there's people everywhere. And then
I have a couple places that I could sit, and it'll be like a journal or a notebook
yeah.
or a book that I'm trying to read or something. And it just moves with me depending on like where I'm sitting and like what area of the house that I'm functioning in.
Mhm.
And I move them, you know, for those.
And then
spaces.
having boundaries around these things as best you can. Some of us are better at that than others. Anna's better at it than me. And then the other thing that's on our list, we'll just talk about here quickly. I wrote down the word dust,
Yeah.
but literally like energetic dusting
Yeah.
and just doing like light cleaning
Mhm.
can really help you feel supported and like your home is supporting you.
Right.
And your home's its own energetic thing.
Yes.
So like you need to tend to it on some level.
Well, that's the importance. So we were talking about like how Sarah is like very Sagittarius. So Sarah has this like get up and go energy. So like Sarah can easily like pick up the things that she needs and then go and pivot. And she can still feel like cohesive in a space. I have a Virgo stellium. I'm very Virgo. For me, a pile of mail is something that clutters and causes me like energetic dust.
Mhm.
You know, and they say about that too. Like if you have a pile of bills and you haven't like opened them in like a month, then that's also like abundance clutter, because like you're not tackling, you know, that abundance block head on. You're letting it pile up, and then that pile of things gets stuck in your brain, and then you dwell, and then you can't move forward. And that's very much like me in my house. If there's a sink of dishes, I'm like, there's a sink of dishes. I have to cook 3 meals today, and like I can't move forward, and I become paralyzed. And in that paralyzed nature, I hit a drive-through. I order takeout because I don't want to tackle the sink of dishes because it got too big, which is why I have to do it regularly, and why Sarah always gets so miffed when I'm like, I have to clean. She's like, you're always cleaning. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to.
You are always cleaning.
I know, but I have to, because if I don't and it gets to be too much, then I become incapable of the forward movement, which is like my life in general. You know, even like work. If there's so many things that are due at once, I'm like all of a sudden paralyzed because my brain can't focus on all the tasks. It needs to do little chunks of things to maintain. Otherwise, I'm like crippled by the weight of it.
Yeah.
And so for me, keeping clean spaces, you know, wiping my counter, making sure that the bills are opened, making sure that I don't have a sink full of dishes, making sure that like my pillows aren't on the floor when I go to bed from my couches, that they're on the couch, even if they're not like perfect, helps me hit my next day running. And if I come downstairs to clutter, it's like my momentum just goes downhill and I become immobile in being productive. So I have to start each day
So I think really
with a clean slate.
starting to think of your home as a sacred space, or whatever you call home, a sacred space, And then how would you connect to a sacred space? And then connect to your home space in that same way with that same reverence and making it feel the way you want it to feel so it supports you.
Right. And that can look different for everybody. Like I said, Sarah's is, bookshelves and art supplies, and it's kid lived in.
Oh yeah, my house is like its own little elementary school.
It really is. But that's also what functions for Sarah, and it's great because Sarah and her kids, they sit on the floor, they read, they do these things.
Yeah, well, we homeschool too, so that makes it like our house just functions. Too, about when your home is your sacred space, make it function
for what you need.
Right. My house very much functions for living, learning, getting into and getting out of.
Right.
We don't have, because we do travel around. So often even we don't live out of bags, but there's some stuff we don't even really unpack fully because
you're going to go again.
It's just, we're in the summer in particular. Come now, we're leaving in a week. And from now through the first week of October, it's just constant. I think we're gone for 13 weeks from now through. For a week from now, I'm going. And then, of this recording, when you see this, I'll already be gone. But in this recording, already be gone.
No cold meats on my kitchen table.
No cold meats for you.
I'm going to mail them to you.
From
cold meat.
So like the mid-February through mid-October, I think it's 13 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so we do, that would bother some people just having totes of stuff, but it's easier for us. We place the totes in a corner, in the room where they're used, and then we just pick them up and move them again 2 weeks later when we go again.
And I'm not like that. I like to be home. So I've got plants everywhere. I couldn't leave for that long because I'd have to hire a full-time nanny to mind my plants.
I have to do that for my plants and the cats.
You have so many plants.
I do. I have several now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have at least 5. Plus all those little ones that our mom keeps cutting off and doing the thing where you put them in water. Propagate them. She's got propagating things everywhere.
Those will be just fine.
Uh-huh. Those and the
propagation
cats.
Station doesn't need any.
So I do have someone come to the house every day while we're gone.
I know.
You're going to be one of those people.
I've done it.
I'm going to leave you cold meats. That's your reward. Your prize.
Gosh. You should hire somebody to come in and leave a cold meat on the kitchen table every day before I get there.
That would drive you crazy.
It would drive me crazy. It'd be like freaking cold meats.
All right. Well, now that we've got that out of our system with the cold meats.
Never out of the system.
I know. All right. I want to make sure you know about a few things. You can check out our free self-care guide. You can check out our holistic witchery waitlist. So many good things that we have going on here at the Sisters Enchanted. You can find the links to everything right around this video. Please like this, share this, subscribe, all of that good stuff, because it helps us get this cold meat message out into the world.
So
if your friends
work
are really, if you have friends that are really structured and don't like laughter, probably don't recommend it to them. But the other people,
maybe they need a little bit
and loosen them up.
Yeah, a little shaky shake.
All right. Well, do all the things. Share. Thank you so much for listening to us, and we will see you next time on the Expedition to Soul podcast.
Woo!